On Thursday, the 2nd of April 1970, Her Majesty the Queen, accompanied by His Royal Highness the Duke of Edinburgh, came to Tasmania. It was Her Majesty's third visit to the island state, but the first for two of the royal children, Princess Anne and the Prince of Wales, who arrived 15 minutes earlier. Her Majesty and Phillip were received at Hobart Airport by the Governor of Tasmania, Sir Edric Bastian and Lady Bastian, and then met the Premier of Tasmania, Mr. Bethune and Mrs. Bethune, as well as the Deputy, Mr. Lyons and Mrs. Lyons. Following the official reception, Her Majesty the Queen inspected the Guard of Honour, escorted by the Guard Commander, Major C.D. von Stiglitz. Although skies were overcast after an earlier drizzle of rain, the royal family immediately brightened the day with their smiles. In Macquarie Street, in the centre of Hobart, a huge crowd had assembled to welcome the royal visitors. For the older people, it was a tremendous reassurance. Empires had come and gone, but the Commonwealth would go on. The Lord Mayor of Hobart, Sir Basil Osborne, walked with the royal guests through Hobart. For the young, it was the thrill of a lifetime to see the charming sovereign in person, and even to be addressed by her. Her Majesty and Prince Philip had a smile and a gracious wave of hands for everyone. In the conference room in the Hobart Hall, Prince Philip, about to present gold awards to youngsters, was received by the chairman and the secretary of his award committee. The Prince of Wales attended the function, as did Princess Anne. Shortly afterwards, Her Majesty held an investiture in the ballroom at Government House. She knighted the Honourable Peter Crisp for services to the law and the Honourable Marcus Gibson for similarly distinguished accomplishments. One of the highlights of the memorable function came when 85-year-old Mrs. Alice Cresswell of Mellor, near Smithton, received the insignia of membership of the most excellent order of the British Empire from the hands of the Queen. Mrs. Cresswell, who lost both her legs, received the decoration for her tireless services to charity in Smithton. Altogether, Her Majesty presented 18 awards during the impressive ceremony. Later, in the Hobart City Hall, transformed for the occasion into a solemn reception hall, the Premier, Mr. Bethune, officially welcomed the royal visitors.
Tonight, this representative gathering brings to you, Your Majesty, and to Your Royal Highnesses, greetings from all Tasmanians. And it is my honour and privilege to convey to you, on this occasion, our feeling of great affection, loyalty, and pride in this memorable occasion.
Her Majesty then replied.
Mr. Premier, you have referred to the occasions when my husband and I were in Tasmania together in 1954 and 1963. Visits that were both as happy as they were memorable. This time we have our eldest son and our daughter with us, and we are particularly glad to have this chance of introducing them to this island state. whose scenery has such a pleasantly familiar look about it. So far as I remember, 1954 also marked the 150th anniversary of Colonel Collins's landing in the harbour on which Hobart now stands. This year we are celebrating an even older Australian anniversary in the bicentenary of Captain Cook's voyage, which had a great significance for both Australians as well as New Zealanders. He and his ship's company were men of courage, endurance, and enterprise. And it is these qualities which have created the modern civilized state of Australia today, and on which so much of the future is being built. I thank you on behalf of my husband and my children, not only for your greetings and good wishes, but for the welcome we have received from my people in Tasmania. It will be my constant prayer that Tasmania may continue to flourish, and that Tasmanians may always meet with the prosperity which they have earned by their efforts.
The next day, Friday the 3rd of April, was favoured by sunshine when the royal visitors arrived at the Longley property of Messrs. G.L. and M.J. Coombs to see how Tasmania's principal primary crop, apples, are harvested. Complete informality prevailed, and although hundreds of people milled around the royal family, they saw the harvesting of fruit in all detail, the Queen asking questions of Mr. Coombs, Prince Charles and Princess Anne showing great interest in the picking process, and the Duke of Edinburgh being very nearly hit by a falling apple. At Ranelagh, 11 miles away, the distinguished visitors walked with the Warden of Huon, Mr. T.A. Frankham, and were again treated to a gay and sincere welcome by youthful crowds. Inside the packing shed, they were obviously impressed by the care and attention to detail given the fruit in grading and packing. Later, the loading of export fruit was watched as apples were taken aboard the Israeli ship Haabukah at Macquarie Wharf. The value of Tasmania's 1970 harvest is estimated to be worth almost $12 million. In Campbell Street, in front of the northeast wing of the Royal Hobart Hospital, the Royal Standard fluttered from the flagpole, announcing the imminent opening of the new building by Her Majesty.
Mr. Minister, my husband and I thank you and all who have joined with you in your kind welcome. And we are both looking forward to seeing something of this fine new addition to the Royal Hobart Hospital. I now declare the northeast building open.
The northeast wing, built at a cost of $3,730,000, comprises 11 stories and will accommodate an additional 159 patients. Apart from the Peter McCallum Clinic, it has 2 floors of children's wards, 2 floors for adults, an education centre and a lecture theatre. Watched by members of the nursing staff, the royal visitors then proceeded on an inspection tour of the new building, and Her Majesty found time to speak to many of the patients, especially the younger ones. The beautiful day, one of the most strenuous for the royal family, ended with their departure from Hobart in the royal yacht Brittania. But for the north of the state, the excitement began the next day, Saturday the 4th of April, when the stately royal yacht arrived at Inspection Head in the Tamar. Again, huge crowds, spiced by a multitude of ardent youngsters, were waiting. Her Majesty and Prince Phillip were welcomed by the Master Warden of the Port of Launceston Authority, Mr. Ferrell, and Mrs. Ferrell. Launceston presented a gay picture when the royal family alighted from their car to be welcomed to Tasmania's second largest city by the Mayor, Alderman Green, and Mrs. Green. Mowbray Racecourse, splendidly attired for what was literally a royal derby, presented itself in bright colour when the royal family was welcomed by the chairman of the Tasmanian Turf Club, Mr. Freeland and Mrs. Freeland. Horses and jockeys too put on an extra special effort for the occasion, and jockey Brian Gilders was obviously the happiest man in Tasmania when he won the Queen Elizabeth Stakes on Beer Street and was congratulated by Her Majesty on his fine horsemanship. Returning to Inspection Head, the royal family passed over one of Australia's most unique bridges, the Batman Bridge over the Tamar River, characterised by its dominant A-shaped pylon. The State Governor, Sir Edric Bastian, and the Premier, Mr. Bethune, were at Inspection Head to farewell the royal guests. personal warmth and sincerity, their genuine interest in all they were shown, their ready smiles and their questions had endeared them once again in the hearts of all who saw them. And it was with the affectionate wish, "Do come again soon," that Tasmania said goodbye to the Sovereign and her family.